Welcome to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast, your go-to place for approachable conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach who's on a mission to support 1 million women and couples to experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom. This is the space to go deep, to dive below surface level relationships and mess sex and explore the sacredness that sexuality and conscious relationships have to offer. Because deep connection, spiritual sexuality, full body orgasms, and transmuted sexual energy are available to everyone. And I'm here to serve the collective, to provide the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to access them. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to another Tuesday transmission episode inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. And this week we are talking about how to get out of your head and into your body for deeper pleasure. So picture this, you are getting intimate with your partner, things are going well, you're progressing, and after a little bit of time, yes, things are feeling good, but then you're starting to think it's taking a little bit longer for you to reach orgasm, that it should be building up a little bit more. Maybe it's getting close and you start thinking about it, wanting it to come, wishing it came sooner. And all of a sudden you are caught up in your head. You are no longer in your body and in your sensations. You're beginning a thought spiral that is not making things sexier, worrying about your orgasm, about your partner and how things are seeming for them if you're taking too long for them, this, that, and the other thing, and you are completely taking yourself out of your pleasure. So this same instance can happen the same thing can happen no matter what those specifics are, whether you're worried you're taking too long to orgasm, or maybe they've touched somewhere that you feel a little insecure about, or maybe their eye contact was just a little bit more intense and kind of pushed you to your edge. There can be so many different specific triggers that happen, but it's all the same in how we get caught up in our heads, taking us out of our body and out of our pleasure, making that orgasm and even more importantly, that connection further and further away. So have you ever felt like this? I can pretty much guarantee if you are listening to this podcast, you have felt this at one point in time or another. And it can be frustrating to feel like your body and your mind are on completely different pages during intimacy, that your body, you want this, even your mind wants this, but yet your mind's going somewhere else. And they're not kind of on the same page, on the same team, working together, that they're actually kind of fighting against each other a little bit. And I just want to say that, this is totally normal to be experiencing. It is very, very common. And all it takes, it's not like you're broken or anything's wrong with you. It just means you need to rewire how your brain and body connect during pleasure. So that's what we will be getting into today. We'll chat a little bit more on why women struggle with presence during pleasure, the role of embodiment in pleasure, some practical techniques, and I will actually guide you through a very brief little mindfulness technique. That is my number one tip for women who get caught up in their heads and out of their body during pleasure. And I will just show you how this changes everything once you can really work on your presence and your mindfulness during intimacy. So let's get into it. Do you desire to feel confident in your body and empowered in your sexuality? The Honeypot Meditation is a potent 12-minute visualization to support you in connecting with your sexuality and rewiring your subconscious with the confident, radiant energy you'd love to embody. Download completely free through the link in the show notes and get ready to immerse yourself in a visceral experience as you connect with your sensual, radiant essence. And so, as I said, it is very, very, very common that women struggle with presence during pleasure. So, one, this is how our culture works, is to not be present, to be going from one thing to the next. Women, especially moms, are massive multitaskers, always have a cajillion tabs open in their head. Like, you should see, even when I'm recording this podcast, I always try to shut down my tabs as much as possible. I can easily have 30 or 50 tabs open, but even when I'm trying to shut them down as much as possible, I still have 8 or 9 tabs open on my computer right now. And that's just a reflection of our heads. We have so many different things going on. We have so many different tabs open. And so we're not necessarily being super present with each one of those tabs until we learn to really rewire our brain and our presence. And so if we're taught to get things done, be productive, worry about all the different things going on in the back end and keep the ship sailing smoothly, we are just caught up in that productive do, that logical thinking that is in our head, and the opposite to pleasure, which is in our body. Now, as women, we've also been trained to overthink, to be self-judgmental, self-critical. And so that's where that negative thought spiral comes from, that we have all really just inherited and learned to have these trigger points and then to overthink them and go down that thought spiral, which again takes us out of the feeling, takes us out of the sensations and the pleasure and into our head. And part of that is a defense mechanism, actually, because it's easier and feels safer on our system to think about what's going on than it does to feel it. So if we bring in our insecurities, and perhaps we are worried that we did something wrong, that we're scared of how we are judged for that, it feels safer on our systems to worry and think about that compared to actually feel the sadness or the pain from being judged. And so, again, I just really say that as permission, that this is just how our bodies work. It's very common, and we can choose to retrain the way our systems are running. And so that kind of plays into this nervous system dysregulation, where we're going through these cycles and these patterns. And when we have these particular trigger points, our nervous system is going to react in a particular way that we have hardwired ourselves to act. So that's where trigger point, boom, in our head, thought spiral, out of our bodies and out of pleasure. And so that's a nervous system pattern. And so it takes embodiment and getting into the nervous system to rewire those patterns to create a new experience for ourselves. And so that's why embodiment and various embodiment practices that I do are such a key piece in sexual empowerment, because it's not just about the tips and tricks, as I say all the time. It really is about creating safety from within, and a huge piece of that safety within is this nervous system regulation. It is rewiring these neural pathways so we feel safe in these instances when these trigger points happen, and that we react in a different way that feels more empowering and fun and passionate, or whatever you want your sexuality to be like in those moments. And presence is the key to feeling more. When we are able to stay present, when we're connected with our partners, we can feel a lot more energy flowing between us. That's where we literally can feel ourselves heating up, right? All of these different hormones are firing from that deep connection. Then when we're able to have that deep presence for the different sensations going on in our body, that's opening ourselves up to feel more and more pleasure. Because we can't think about pleasure and experience it. We need to feel the pleasure. And so that comes from that presence, the presence with your body, with your sensations. What are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? If you focus on it and incorporate the breath, what happens? Do those sensations move or expand in a certain way? All of this is happening through mindfulness. And all of this is how you tap in to that expansive, pleasurable state that's accessible only through your body. And the biggest mistake we as women have, and even just couples in general, it's not just women, but it's a lot of that internal dialogue that we put on ourselves, is rushing. And when we are rushing, when we are putting pressure on the situation, when we are trying to control the timeline of our pleasure, bam, out of our bodies and into our head. And so I have some practical techniques to really help you drop into your body. And so whenever you are in this situation, you can move through this, and I'll elongate it a little bit right now and just guide you through a quick mindfulness technique that you can do right here, right now, just to connect with your body. And so I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Of course, if you're not driving, make sure your eyes are open if you're out there doing something. But if you have the space, please take a moment, if it feels good, to pause. Bringing in just a few slow, intentional breaths in whatever way feels accessible, whether you're in the moment or right now, in through the nose and out through the mouth. We'll do 2 more breaths here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And now just take a moment to scan through your body and see what's present right here, right now. Slowly moving from your head down through your body and just taking note of what's there, knowing there's no right or wrong. Just simply noticing what you're feeling, perhaps where it's located, and what it feels like. Maybe there's a tension in your shoulders. Maybe there's a warmth in your heart. Maybe there's a grumbly belly. Just take a moment to connect with it, to feel those sensations. And if it feels okay to do so, I invite you to breathe directly into one of those sensations. Perhaps it's a positive sensation, or maybe it's more of a darker sensation. But choose one that you'd like to breathe directly into with your breath. Perhaps it's that warm heart, breathing right into your heart. Staying focused on your sensations and the connection you have with them through the breath. As you breathe, focusing on your breath and that connection with that sensation, noticing if it shifts, if it changes in any way through your breath. And that's it. You're welcome to flutter open your eyes again, taking a moment to take in the space around you. And so that is just a really brief, super brief body connection meditation. And the purpose for that is just for you to pause and to connect with your body, to get out of your head and into your sensations. Then towards the end, with that breathing directly into that sensation, it was an invitation to just play with one of the 3 keys of Tantra, with that breath, sound, and movement, to just notice the impact your breath has on your sensations. And so when you are in the moment and you first notice you're getting caught up in your head, my invitation for you is to just focus on the sensations. Stop the spiral of thoughts and just tap into your sensations. And you can do that with your eyes closed in the moment or not, whatever you're comfortable with. But feel, where is our skin touching? Do I maybe notice a little bit of sweat somewhere? Do I notice heat? Do I notice energy or aliveness anywhere? And just training your mind to come back to those sensations. That's training your mindfulness and your presence. And then as you continue to do that, you can weave in that breath, breathing directly into those pleasurable sensations. And so breath is an amplifier, and I have a full podcast episode on the 3 keys of Tantra: breath, sound, and movement. Those are 3 main amplifiers. There's other holistic tools I use, but those are basic foundational ones that you can tap into, and they're a part of taking your pleasure in your own hands and not necessarily relying on your partner to get there, but having that self-responsibility of, okay, I'm getting caught up in my head, or, oh, for some reason, I'm just not quite getting as turned on as like I know I want to be in this moment, but something's like kind of sticky here. So, okay, let's be self-responsible about this. Take that moment, connect with your body. What are you feeling? Is there a pleasurable sensation you can just breathe directly into? Begin to feel the energy and the sensations expand more, and allow the moment to just go from there and see what happens. This is the power of slow pleasure, of slowing down, giving your body the space it needs to naturally seek and feel more pleasure. And it just requires your presence and your patience. And if you get a little bit self-conscious, you can always talk to your partner about it beforehand, whether it's before you're getting intimate or completely unrelated to intimacy, which is how I always recommend talking about intimacy, because it's a lot less vulnerable. If your clothes are still on and you're doing something completely different, the conversations tend to be a little bit more productive and supportive than when it's happening right in the moment and you feel really vulnerable and raw. Do you desire more in your relationship and sexuality? Whether you're excited to explore or feel held back by your challenges, I'm here to support you where you need it. I invite you to book a complimentary connection call through the link in the show notes. During our time together, you'll share your desires, and I'll provide you with just the right resources to support you wherever you are in your journey. Again, that is a complimentary connection call through the link in the show notes to spark a shift in your sexuality and relationships. But you can just mention to your partner, like, hey, I find I'm getting like kind of caught up in my head sometimes, and I really want to feel this deep connection with you. I want to experience more pleasure, and I know I have a role to play in that. It's not just what you're doing or how you touch me. And so if you notice that I'm like kind of just pausing a little bit. Like, you can still do this while touching them, but you can just set the stage. Hey, I might just kind of pause and breathe for a little bit and turn inward. And all I'm doing is focusing on my sensations and seeing where it takes us. And you can totally do this without them even really noticing as well. So just to say, if you're a little bit self-conscious about it, like, there's nothing to worry about at all. You can absolutely do this just kind of internally while you are still going on with the situation. And I just encourage you to listen to your body. Don't rush things. Pause, slow down, get your partner to pause or slow down, and be able to connect with that pleasure. Practice the mindfulness skill of presence, because it is a practice, it is a skill, and it can be learned, and it's learned through doing different practices like this. And that's where sexual empowerment, sacred sexuality, has this ripple effect. A lot of these tools that you can learn in these practices are actually done outside the bedroom. Then you translate them inside the bedroom. Wow, what a difference. Being able to experience that, be celebrated with your partner, having these vulnerable conversations and experiencing more pleasure together. And then you're able to translate that presence to the other areas of your life. It's through sacred sexuality that I became a better mom and a wife, that I'm so much more present with my kids now. Mornings aren't some like rushed, get out the door thing. Like, they're just moving at this nice pace where we have fun and enjoy each other. And I'm still able to connect with my kids while getting all the things done that we need to get done. And it's not this like chaotic, caught in my head rush. It's this embodied presence that, yes, you get to exercise in the realms of sacred sexuality. And then that's how you embody the sensual woman, having this presence in all areas of your life. And the more you're able to practice this presence, that focus on the sensations, beginning to incorporate that breath, sound, and movement, you're going to experience deeper pleasure and more expansive orgasms. You'll get to a point, like, I feel like I've kind of unlocked this new level in these last few months where I can just increase my pleasure and those ways of orgasm simply through breathing and being present with the sensations. So there's a whole world out there for you to experience and play with. And it can start as simple as learning to get out of your head and into your body. And as you work on that, as you practice that, as you see the effects and changes of that, you're going to also see the ripple effect of sensual embodiment and how it expands beyond the bedroom. And so if you would like to try another presence sacred sexuality meditation, I have the honeypot meditation. It is a juicy 12-minute visualization for connecting with what your sensuality is for you and really connecting with your sexual organs. It's great for training that mind-body connection and for practicing that presence and the mindfulness. So that is free. That is available for you in the show notes. I will make sure you have access to it, that it is linked there. And these are just intros to what is inside Unapologetic Practices, a whole collection of embodiment practices to support you in your journey of sensual embodiment. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Stay tuned for Thursday with a guest episode with Nicole Broadbent from New Earth Awakening. I am doing the Vancouver Island Soul Summit, which she is co-creating. And so make sure to check out that episode coming out on Thursday. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode was impactful for you, please make sure to subscribe or leave a rating or review in your podcasting app. I am here to answer any questions that you have. Feel free to just comment below within the podcast or shoot me a DM on Instagram at janine.mckinnon. I love to hear what resonated with you most, and I'm always here to support you. So sending you off with lots of love. Until next time. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you left us a review to help us reach more women and couples so they can experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom too. Until next time, embrace your desire and experience your magic.